Every worker deserves to go home safe at the end of the day. But do you really know what your rights are on the job? In today's video, we will explore your 9 workers' rights as they are defined by OSHA. Before we get started, you must know that federal law entitles you to a safe workplace. Your employer must keep your workplace free of known health and safety hazards, and you are allowed to speak up about hazards without fear of retaliation. Right number 1. You have the right to receive workplace safety and health training in a language that you understand. If you primarily speak Spanish, your training must be provided in Spanish or another language that you clearly understand. If the safety material is too technical or confusing, your employer must explain it in a way that makes sense to you. The purpose is to make sure every worker truly understands how to stay safe on the job, not just to check a box saying that training was completed. Right number 2. You have the right to work on machines that are safe. You shouldn't be asked to work with broken, unsafe, or improperly guarded machines. Machines must have safety guards, emergency stop buttons, and other protective devices in place. Your employer must inspect and maintain machines regularly to keep them in safe working condition. And you must receive training on how to use these machines safely. Right number 3. You have the right to refuse work in a situation in which you would be exposed to a hazard without fear of retaliation from your employer. If a task puts your life or health at risk because of unsafe conditions, you have the right to say, "No, this isn't safe," until the problem is corrected. In this scenario, OSHA does expect you to follow certain steps first. Number 1 is tell your employer about the hazard and ask them to fix it. Number 2, if the hazard isn't corrected and there's no safe alternative, you can refuse the work in good faith, meaning you honestly believe you'd be in danger. Number 3, you should stay at the work site if possible until your employer investigates or assigns safe work. And number 4, you then can file a complaint with OSHA if your employer doesn't correct the danger. Right number 4, you have the right to receive required safety equipment, such as gloves or a harness and a lifeline for fall protection. Your employer must provide you with proper protective gear and equipment needed to safely perform your job at no cost to you. In other words, if your job exposes you to potential hazards like chemicals, falling objects, sharp materials, or working at a height, your employer is legally required to give you the correct gear to stay safe. The purpose of this right is to make sure you're not put at risk because of a missing or inadequate safety equipment. Employers can't make you buy your own safety gear or work without it. Protecting you is their responsibility and your right. This gear is otherwise recognized as PPE, or personal protective equipment. See another video on the channel in the link of the description below for the different usages of PPE to keep you safe at your employer. Right number 5, you have the right to be protected from toxic chemicals. Your company must identify any hazardous chemicals in your workplace, inform and train you about those chemicals, including what they are, how they can harm you, and how to handle them safely. Provide proper protective equipment like gloves, masks, or goggles if needed. Label containers clearly with warning signs and hazard information. Make safety data sheets, otherwise known as SDSs, available for every chemical, explaining its risks and safe handling procedures. Control exposure through ventilation, self-storage, or substitution with safer materials when possible. Right number 6, you have the right to request an OSHA inspection and speak to the inspector. You can file a confidential complaint with OSHA asking them to investigate safety or health problems at your job. You can ask OSHA to keep your name private so that your employer doesn't know who filed the complaint. And when the OSHA inspector visits, you have the right to point out hazards and explain your concerns directly with them. You can speak with the inspector alone, privately, and your employer is not allowed to stop you. And you are protected by law from being fired, demoted, or punished for contacting OSHA. Right number 7, you have the right to report an injury or an illness and get copies of your medical records. You should tell your employer right away if you get hurt or sick because of work. And your employer cannot retaliate, that's fire, demote, or discipline you for reporting an injury or an illness. You have the right to access your medical records, such as results from work-related exams, tests, or treatments. and you can also see records of exposure to toxic substances such as lead, asbestos, or chemicals that could affect your health. You may request copies of these records for your own use or to share with your doctor. Right number 8, you have the right to review records of work-related injuries and illnesses. Your employer is required to keep a log called the OSHA Form 300 of all work-related injuries and illnesses, and you have the right to review or request a copy of that log and related reports. You can use this information to identify patterns or reoccurring hazards. For example, if multiple workers have been injured on the same machine or by the same chemical, the trend would be visible in the data. Your employer must make these records available to employees, former employees, and their representatives upon request. Right number 9, you have the right to see results of tests taken to find workplace hazards. If air or surfaces are tested for toxic chemicals, such as lead, asbestos, or solvents, you have the right to review to get a copy of the results. If noise or dust levels are measured, you have the right to see the readings to know if they are within safe limits. Your employer must tell you about any hazards found and explain how they're being controlled or fixed. This right applies whether the testing is done by your employer, a safety consultant, or an outside agency. So there you have it. OSHA's 9 fundamental workers' rights, from being protected against toxic chemicals to reviewing workplace injury records. Each of these rights exists to make sure that you go home safe, healthy, and respected every single day. As a quick summary, you have the right to receive workplace safety and health training in a language that you understand, work on machines that are safe, refuse to work in a situation which you would be exposed to a hazard, receive required safety equipment if a hazard exists, be protected from toxic chemicals, request an OSHA inspection and speak to the inspector, report an injury or illness and get copies of your medical records, review records of work-related injuries and illnesses, and finally see the results of tests taken to find workplace hazards. Remember, safety isn't just your employer's responsibility, it's your right. And when you know your rights, you're empowered to speak up, take action, and help create a safer workplace for everyone. Until next time, stay aware, stay safe, and keep standing up for your rights. If you have a story where your workers' rights were not respected, describe it in the comments down below. If you found value in the content of this video, like and subscribe. This is your Supply Chain Pro, out.